Cheers.
Cheers.
Buddy of mine said he's built a couple amps before, and he said, well, hey, if you ever thought about making a kit, I'd probably be interested. So I think the week after that I broke my wrist, so everything got put on hold for a little while. But right before Christmas I started kind of figuring out what I wanted, designing stuff up. I knew I wanted something unique, so it's it's a single-ended power output stage, which is the popular amp of the day that did that was the Fender Champ, but 4.5 watts isn't quite enough to, rattle your fillings loose. So used a KT88 for 15 watts of output. It's got a Hammond output transformer. It's a massive transformer. And I originally designed it with one channel, like a Fender AB763 channel, and then I got to thinking, well, I did the Bassman with the 2 channels like that, and that ended up working pretty well. So we'll do a tweed channel. So I get to I lay out the schematics for it, and I'm looking at how Fender did this stuff, and something's kind of going off in the back of my head, and if I look at a JCM 800 circuit, wow, if you dime the tone control of a tweed, and you bias the cathodes of the 2 gain stages in a tweed channel more like a Marshall, wow, that really ends up looking a lot like a JCM 800 circuit. So I'm like, well, let's try it. So I did, and it ended up working really well. There's a lot of... It didn't take away anything fun about like the original tweed circuit. It's dead simple. It sounds good no matter where you put the controls. But, and the first volume, which I've labeled gain on this one, if you start to really get it up past 7 or 8, it has that tweed compressy, that Neil Young, for lack of better terms, that Neil Young very compressed distortion. It'll do that, so that tweed sound is really, or that characteristic of a tweed amp is still there. And then if you crank up the output, it does that Marshall thing that sounds really good distorted.
So what's the part about you making a plan for that other people could build it?
Yeah, so my buddy, he kind of laid down a challenge in a way, in a very friendly and not non-threatening way. He kind of laid down a challenge, and I accepted. So the idea is that I have over-documented and over-documented. I've got schematics, I've got assembly drawings, I've got, where to punch the holes in the chassis. I've got the whole basic set of plans that you can make one yourself. Might be kind of fun.
Yeah. So this is where you're doing all your soldering and shit. So
Well,
you
this
used to do it in that upstairs room.
Yeah, I still do it up there, but the lighting down here in the computer, so I can do the documentation
yeah, sure.
and get the lighting and the pictures just right, and it's all just very instant. I don't have to go upstairs and downstairs 100 times, going back and forth.
Sure.
So this is the turret board to the kit amp. So there's documentation and all the stuff to support what parts go where and what values of parts, and this is how you put it together. For my friend who wanted the amp kit, I decided to make it a lot easier and do color codes. So any turrets that have blue on the bottom end up going to a tube plate. Any turrets with white go to a cathode. Green connections are grounds, and red connections are all your high voltage. Sits in the amplifier case like this, so the tubes are at the back and the controls will be here. So all the high voltage stuff is pretty much to the back side, and all the signal level stuff is pretty much to the front side again, and then all the power supply stuff is over here, and all of your inputs are as far away from that as physically possible in the case. So it ends up being relatively quiet for a single-ended amp. And the turret board lets you really kind of lay stuff out in a very logical way, and then you can actually put stuff underneath it too. So I've hidden most of the power supply filter caps underneath it, because there isn't a whole lot of space in the chassis. You have this extra little board here. This is the bias power supply. So you can bias the stuff up great. And then we have this right here. So this is the magic of the single-ended circuit. This is an interstage transformer, and what it allows me to do is drive the grid of the output tube positive. Because it's such a low impedance drive, I can really zonk the snot out of it, for lack of better terms. And you know, the fun thing is the power supply in this will support up to a 60 watt amp without too much trouble. And if I flip around the interstage transformer here and put another tube in it, I could make a 50 watt amp out of it pretty easy. With the same, everything else the same. I could basically up the output.
Stop that one. That was cool.